again, and welcome back to another, well, I was about to say another Fmod and Unity tutorial, but today we're not doing neither. We are looking at implementing Wwise into the Unreal Engine. Before we look into that, as always, I just want to let you guys know that if you're looking at improving your audio implementation skills, then you might be interested in the Fmod and Unity Essentials course, despite the fact that's not what we're looking at today. It's a course that will give you all the tools and skills you need to be able to use Fmod within the C# coding language and be able to implement your audio into Unity. If that sounds like something you'd like to benefit from, then you can go to my website, scottgamesounds.com. You can sign up to the newsletter we have, and you can get access to a free lesson to give it a bit of a taste. And if you plan on signing up before the 7th of February, which is the end of our next release, you'll actually be helping out a really good cause. I'm going to be donating 10% of the profits made from it to help with the Australian bushfires that, I'm sure you've seen on the news that are going crazy. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. Okay, I really wanted to let you guys know about that course, but I also wanted to kind of get it out of the way quickly, because like I said, for the first time ever, we're not doing Fmod and Unity today. We're going to try our hands at Wwise and Unreal, integrating them two together, the complete polar opposites to Unity and Fmod. Now, the reason why is because I want to start doing some more videos diving deeper into audio implementation with other software out there. And of course, the two big dogs when it comes to game engines and audio middleware is Wwise and Unreal. So whilst we're not really going to be looking too much into the specifics of implementing audio today, we're just gonna learn how to set them up so that they work together. And whilst there are other videos on YouTube showing you how to do this, I thought if we're going to look at implementation, then we might as well start from the very beginning, so we're all, on the same page. So nice and easy stuff today. Yeah, let's see if we can implement two projects together. Okay, now the very first thing you're going to need is both the Wwise launcher and the Unreal Engine launcher, because unlike Unity and Fmod, these two programs need launchers. Well, I'm not sure if they need them, but you can download launchers in order to launch each individual project you making them. So that's what we're going to do, or that's what we're going to make sure you've got before we start. So you're going to want to go to the Epic Games website, where you can download the Epic Games launcher, which is what we're going to use to launch an Unreal project. You're also going to want to go to Audio Kinetics website and download the Wwise launcher. Both of these websites are obviously the companies that created these pieces of software. So if you haven't done already, make sure you download them. Links will be in the description for those two websites. Okay, so we're going to start with the Wwise launcher and make sure we download and install the latest version of Wwise. So to do that, you want to go to the Wwise tab at the top. Choose your version. For me, the latest version is 2019.1.6, which is also the version I've already downloaded and installed. So just follow the on-screen process, nice and easy to do. During this process, you should come to a screen similar to this. You're going to want to make sure that you have both of these packages ticked. Mine are automatically, but just make sure yours are if they aren't. And I believe you'll also definitely need, for this to work, you'll need the Microsoft, Windows, and maybe this will change later on, but I think you need Visual Studio 2015 and 2017 downloaded, so just make sure you've got them. Again, I think, yeah, it's best to play it safe. With the Universal Windows platform, again, make sure you've got Visual Studio 2017 downloaded. And also make sure you've got Apple iOS and Mac OS downloaded. These are all development platforms, so these are the platforms you can develop games for. I believe they're the standard ones that you have to download to, get this to work with Unreal. Once you've got them selected, just click Next and move on to the rest of the process. Once you're good to go, you're then going to want to head over to the Unreal Engine section. Now, this section automatically will search your computer, your desktop, or your Mac, I believe, as well, to see if you've got any Unreal projects already created. Now, obviously, we don't, because we haven't even installed Unreal yet. That's why it says no recent projects could be found. Now, the reason why we downloaded and installed Wwise first is because of a little issue I noticed. When I was originally setting this up, even when I had an Unreal project ready to go, I was still getting this message. I was thinking, what? That can't be right. I've definitely got a project ready to go. Turns out that as of right now, what's the date? The 24th of January 2020. As of right now, Wwise doesn't support the latest version of Unreal. The latest version of Unreal being 4.24.1. Currently, Wwise only supports up to 4.23.1. So originally, I had this version installed and a project created within this version of Unreal. Hence why it wasn't recognizing the project. I couldn't find it. And for the longest time, this was driving me crazy. I was ripping my hair out trying to work this out. So this is a little issue you want to make sure you avoid, that you've got the correct Wwise and Unreal version, that they're both compatible. Now, the easiest way I found of figuring this out was to open this little drop-down menu here, click Download Wwise Integration to use as an engine plugin. Now, doing this is kind of like a manual way of integrating the two to work together. You kind of download a plugin and you have to manually insert it into your project's files, but we're not going to do that. That's too long and hard. But what we are going to do is take a look at the versions of Unreal that we can download the plugin to, because this is going to give us a clue to which versions Wwise is compatible for. Obviously, the latest version is 4.23, so that's why when we move over to the Epic Games Launcher, we're going to focus on that version for today. Again, for you, obviously you're watching this in the future, things might be different, but I'm just warning you in case you stumble across that issue as well. Cool, okay, so we've got a Wwise project, well, not a Wwise project, but we've got the program Wwise downloaded and installed. So now let's go to the Epic Games Launcher. We're going to click the Unreal Engine tab, and we're going to make our way over to Library, and this is where you can select which version of Unreal you'd like to download and install. Now, like I said, I've got two versions, and I've gone with 4.23 because currently Wwise is only compatible with that version. And as you can see, I've also already got it downloaded and installed. So once you've done it, again, downloaded and installed, you're going to want to start by launching Unreal first. Once you've done that, you'll be taken to a page similar to this. Now, I know version 4.24 is set up a little bit differently, so your page is going to look different if you're using that version or later. But basically, you're just going to want to create a project of a certain type. As you can see, these are all kind of like template games that you can use. I think we are going to go with just, we'll go with a first person. So I'm going to go with a first person game and call it Unreal Project and create project. Obviously, you can see there, there's a location. You can choose which location within your computer's folders and stuff that you want to save the project within. I'm just doing it with the default Unreal Projects folder that I believe the Unreal Engine will just set up for you when you download and install inside your documents. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do once you've opened up your Unreal project is close it straight away, because now we need to move on to the Wwise launcher again. Okay, so now that we've got a project, we're going to come back to the Unreal Engine tab. We're going to click this little drop-down menu here, and this time click Refresh Page. And voila, we have a project, or our launcher's discovered a project. So you're going to want to hit and click Integrate Wwise into project. Once you've done that, you'll be brought to a little page like this. This is kind of just checking to make sure that those extra files, like Visual Studio stuff that I told you to download earlier, have been downloaded. And if they haven't, if you're missing any essential components to make this work, it will tell you here which ones you'll need. And as you can see, it will allow you to modify, the downloads that you downloaded with Wwise, if that makes sense. So yeah, just give that a quick read. If it's all good to go, which mine is, you then get the option to either choose which Wwise project you want to use to integrate with your Unreal project, or if you leave it blank, it'll just create a new one, which is what I'm going to do, just leave it blank. And max reverb volumes, whatever this is, we're just going to ignore. So once you're good to go, hit integrate. So just wait for this loading bar to finish. This is not only going to integrate, well, first it's going to create a project for you, which it's going to store, by the way. If you ever need to access this project's folders and files, it will store it within your Unreal projects folder, which again, like I said, for me, is within my documents folder. So just bear that in mind. It's going to create that project and then integrate it to work with the Unreal project we've chosen. Okay, once that's all done and it says operation completed successfully, go ahead and open your Wwise project through the launcher by clicking here or going back to the Wwise tab and click Launch Wwise, which will give you the option to load up the specific project, and also go back to the Epic Games Launcher, go back to Library, and open up the project you created. So open up both projects where we can move on to testing to see if the integration worked. So one quick way of checking that it worked is to simply right-click anywhere or right-click in the Content Browser tab and check to see if you have a tab that says Audio Kinetic, the company that made Wwise. Obviously, if you do, then that means the integration worked nicely. So that's good. We've got it all set up, but that's just a quick way of testing. The real way we want to test is by actually implementing some audio as quickly as we can and seeing if we can get it to play back in Unreal. So let's do that. Let's jump into Wwise. We're just going to run through the most basic way of setting up an audio event. First things first, before we create an audio event, we need some audio. So what you're going to want to do, making sure that, well, first of all, I'm in the wrong tab. By default, you should be in the designer layout, but if you're not, just go to layouts and click designer. The first thing you're going to want to do after that is go to the audio tab in the project explorer, click on the actor mixer hierarchy and the default work unit underneath it. To create a sound effects object, click on the default work unit under actor mixer hierarchy. Click this little, it's really tiny, this little speaker symbol here, that's how you create it. So let's call it waterfall. I'm going to call it waterfall just because I know I'm going to be dragging in audio that plays water running, essentially. So we've got a little sound effects object, but it's empty. So let's import some audio and place it inside of it. So right click on it and click import audio. Here you'll be given the option to either import a single audio file or multiple files. I'm just going to import the one. So I'm going to click add files and then I'm going to dig through my computer to find an audio file. So go ahead and do the same thing. Okay, so I found the audio file I want, and actually if you're interested you can go to scottgamesounds.com and you can download all of these samples of ambiances I took when I was going around Central Europe. If you're interested. Never hurts to have extra samples, does it? Anyway, find the audio file you want to implement and click open. Then it will just show you the audio you're importing and click import. And you should notice that the sound effects object you created turned from a red text to a blue text like mine did. Let's quickly check the import worked. Perfect, it's in. So we've got an audio file essentially. Now we need to put it inside an event, which we can then, decide what we want to do with it. Do we want the audio to play, stop, do some other stuff, do a backflip? Let's go to events, and then inside the events tab we're going to click the default work unit. This time we're going to create an event object, and we'll call this, I don't know, Ambiance. There we go. So once you've created your event object, double click on it to make sure you've got it open in the editor, and what we're going to want to do is drag our sound effects object into it. So let's go back to audio, select waterfall, drag it over, and as you can see now we have a kind of thing to do with it. At the moment the type is set to play, which means that when this event is triggered within the Unreal Engine, it's going to play the sound, nice and easy. Great, so we've got a container for our audio ready to play it, but now we need to turn that into a file that the Unreal Engine can read, and that file, which is also going to be stored within the Unreal Engine's files within our desktop. That file is called a sound bank. So let's go to the layouts tab, and this time we're going to go to the sound bank layout. Okay, so from here, let's create our sound bank. What I'm going to do is click the default work unit, and I'm going to select new. I'm going to give this a name. I'm just going to call mine master, because I'm so used to Fmod having a master bank. Click OK, and then with this little drop-down menu should have appeared on the default work unit. Just give that a tick and make sure they're both selected. Once you've created the bank, you'll also need to select which platforms you're building this file for. Obviously, if you're creating a game for multiple platforms, say PlayStation, Switch, etc., it needs a file for each of those platforms that can read the audio differently for their software. So I'm just going to click Windows, and I'm going to select the English US language. So we've got a file. Well, we've nearly got a file, but if we create the file now, there'd be nothing in it. There'd be no audio. So let's go to our Event Viewer tab, which should be at the bottom left, unless you've moved it. Click on the Ambience event we created, which again contains our sound effect object, which contains our audio file or a reference to it. And we're going to drag it onto the master bank like that. And you can see it's just appeared within the master bank editor. And finally, the only thing that's left to do now is generate all. So this is going to generate all of the banks we've created, creating files with all of the audio we've assigned to those banks, and automatically place them in a place on our desktop and within the files of our Unreal project. I'm gonna have to get used to saying Unreal, where it can read the files to play back our sounds. And that's pretty much it. In Wwise, we've got, like I said, an event that's housing some audio, which we are going to trigger to play as soon as our scene starts in Unreal. So just give the project a save, and let's jump over to the Unreal Engine. Okay, so we're not going to be too organized here. We're literally just going to create some stuff and try and get this audio to play as soon as the scene starts. So in the content browser, within the content folder, which is like the main folder that holds all of your assets for your project in, we are going to right click and we are going to create, well, we're going to go to the Audio Kinetic tab. We're going to select an Audio Kinetic bank. And this is kind of like an object that's going to house, from my understanding anyway, house the file, the bank file that we just created within Wwise. And it's very important that you name this the exact same name that you did your bank. So I named mine master, so that's exactly, oh, never mind, it's just named it for me. Let's right click, click edit, and how can I rename it? Oh, there's a rename option. So right click, rename, and I'm going to call mine master and hit enter. Then once you've done that, just open it up by double clicking on it and hit save just to make sure that has saved. And also if you haven't, it should automatically be ticked, but make sure auto load is ticked. Okay, so we've got our object of our file, our master bank. Now we need to create an object of this specific event we want to play. So let's once again hit right click, go Audio Kinetic. We're going to go Audio Kinetic event. And again, this has to be named the exact same thing your event is. So mine was called Ambiance. And I'm just going to quickly check that Ambience is, spelled correctly and is what I called my event, which is brilliant. So let's go back to Real. And again, double click it. This time you're going to want to select the specific bank object that houses the bank file that houses your audio event in, if that makes sense. So for mine, it's going to be obviously the master bank. So let's click this drop down menu here and select the master bank. Then again, hit save to make sure that's all saved. Finally, the last thing we're going to want to do before we start actually telling the event to play is go up to the build option at the top here, click this drop down menu and click generate sound banks. Then select the bank you want to generate and the available platforms you want to generate it for. I'm by the way just focusing completely on PC Windows. You might differ. So let's hit generate. You should get a little message, by the way, that pops up in the bottom right corner saying sound bank generated. Brilliant. Okay, so now what we're going to do is drag that event somewhere into our scene and we're going to tell it to play. Now you could attach this to one of these objects, but because I'm lazy, I'm just going to drag it anywhere and just, drop it somewhere that doesn't really matter. I mean, this is a 2D event anyway. It's just going to play an ambient, so it doesn't really matter where it is in the scene. Once you've done that, you're going to want to click the blueprint button. And we're going to create a quick blueprint. Doesn't really matter what you call it or where you decide to save it for now. But just create a blueprint. And we're just going to use this blueprint to play the event. Okay, so once it's opened up, go to the event graph. And you'll see we've got a few little nodes here. The node we're going to focus on is this one at the top here, event begin play, which is simply going to play the event as soon as, well, we tell it to. Now, I'm not going to focus, I'm going to tell you how to set this up, but I'm not really going to focus too much on the specific nodes and what they do. We're going to look at that hopefully in later videos, simply because, as of right now anyway, I'm no expert when it comes to both Unreal and the blueprint system. So I definitely want to do my research before I start educating you guys further on how to use them with Wwise. For now, we're just going to follow this step-by-step process to get things set up and working. So, click this little white arrowy thing here. Hopefully you can see that. Click and drag so we can create and attach a new node to our event begin play one. And in the search tab, we're going to type post event, and which should be under the Audio Kinetic tab, by the way. And click on that. Now, there's a few things we're going to want to do with this node. First, under the Audio Kinetic event we'd like to play, we're going to choose Ambience. Then we're going to want to click Actor, drag another line, and we're going to type in self and click Get a Reference to Self. Once you've done that, hit Compile, save as well, why not, just for good measure, and then hit play just to test that it's working. Brilliant, all good. If you're not hearing yours play, other than go through these steps again and just double check you've done everything right, one thing I can recommend you try is going back to the master, or going back to the bank object you created, right-clicking, and click refresh all banks. That can't hurt, can it? Okay, I think the last thing to do is to play our scene and see if we hear that waterfall. Brilliant. We're all good to go. And there we go, that's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed. Like I said, that was nice and simple, just to get things set up and working so that we can later on look at some stuff and look at how we can do some things that are actually interesting and a little bit useful. Like I said, I need to go away first and do quite a bit of homework. When it comes to Unity and Fmod, I'm your guy, but when it comes to this, Blueprints is a bit, throws me off a little bit. And of course, thank you ever so much for even hearing me out. Oh, I've lost it now. I'm going to quickly get it up. Thank you ever so much for hearing me out about the Fmod and Unity Essentials course. Again, if you want to take your audio implementation skills to the next level, just up your game when it comes to being an audio professional in the games industry, this might be a very good bet for you. And again, you can sign up to the newsletter, get a free video to give you a little taste. That doesn't hurt, does it? And if you are considering buying this, thank you in advance because you are helping out the Australians. So yeah, really appreciate that. That means a lot. Thanks very much for watching. I've been Henry Scott, and I'll see you in the next one.